So, this video from Incognito Islamic Productions is a clip from some Muslim guy saying things. Let's see what he says.
For us, the other logical argument, which we usually find in the Quran, is the argument from design. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ? Will they not look at the camels and how they were created? Allah created the camel in a special way. In a way that he can cross the desert, he can retain liquids in his hump, so that he can go without water for days on end. The way his feet are made to walk on the hot sands, which normally you couldn't handle, no other animal could handle it.
Actually, it took 10 seconds of typing into Google to find the addax, which is not a camel, but has large feet so as not to sink into the sand, just like the camel.
So many different characteristics which make the camel unique, designed specifically for the desert.
Adapted specifically for the desert. The camel is very cool and very useful, but that doesn't mean that it was designed.
When Allah says, look at that design, He's saying that you had to have a creator, you had to have somebody who is going to design that. This is not something which comes about by accident.
Correct. It doesn't come about by accident. There is some accident involved in the form of mutation, but that is only half of the answer. The other half is called natural selection. The way that the camel got its features is that some creature had no hump, and they had a baby that by chance had slightly curved back that could store more water. This ability to have more water meant that they had an easier time surviving and making babies with the same genes for curved backs. Each time the camel's back gets bigger, it is better at surviving and making babies. So these camels survive and make babies.
And this is the argument really of many of the Christian philosophers, etc., is around the argument from design. That design indicates a designer. Of course, the counter argument is that no, design could come from chance, from accident. Sometimes if you're painting, you splatter some paint on the wall. Somebody says, hey, doesn't that look like a hand? Doesn't that look like a head or a foot or something like this? So splattering paint on the wall, you can get some things which look like things, design things. But we say to them, okay, that can happen, but do you think that you could mix paint, different colors of paint in a bucket, throw it against the wall, right? And how many times you throw it? You throw it 1,000,000 times, or however many times you want. You throw it against the wall. Do you think that at any time you will accidentally come out with Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa?
There is an infinitesimally small chance that would happen, assuming that you had all the colors that you need in the bucket. A better analogy, however, would be that you splash paint on a wall in a way that you can perfectly do again and create the exact same splash every time. Then try a few different techniques and pick the one that's the closest to the Mona Lisa. Then try a few different changes and pick the one that's the closest to the Mona Lisa. This is still flawed since evolution doesn't have an end goal like the Mona Lisa, but it's closer.
You think that's going to happen anytime? By accident? Just keep throwing. They say yes. Yes. You have an infinite amount of time and infinite amount of tries, and one of those times you'll get that. This goes against common sense.
That's because you have a single end goal in mind. Evolution simply takes random mutations, and whichever one makes it easier to have more babies with that gene survive. Also, I must note that I have a device in my pocket with access to the entirety of human knowledge at the push of a button. That goes against common sense.
This goes against common sense. Common sense tells you, hey, the first time you try it, the chances of it happening are what? 0. Less than 0. And the billionth time that you try it, is it any different than the first time? No. So we say no. They usually give the example that if you put 100 monkeys in a cage, give them 100 typewriters, pieces of paper, and let them bang away at the keys with their nose, their elbows, their toes, anything, sit on the keys, whatever. Eventually, one of them is going to type out for you the whole of the Quran. If you give them Arabic typewriters. The whole Quran. From Fatiha to Nas. They usually give the example of the Bible. I'm just giving it in our context. Quran has more significance.
I've always heard that the monkeys will type out the entire works of Shakespeare. Speaking of, why don't we run that experiment? I wrote a Python script that randomly types with the goal of typing the words to be or not to be. I ran this script for a very long time, and it never typed those 18 letters. This makes sense, since the probability of that happening is around 1 in 58 septillion, 149 sextillion, 737 quintillion, 3 quadrillion, 40 trillion, 59 billion, 690 million, 390,169. This means that if you started the script when the universe began, 13.8 billion years ago, and you typed 18 letters per second, you would have a 0.0000074% chance of having typed those words.
The chances of that happening, we say 0. Don't tell us. Don't tell us that this is possible. This is not possible.
I agree. Next, I'll run the experiment using a genetic algorithm. Basically, each generation has a bunch of organisms. Each organism is a list of letters. The organisms that have more letters matching to be or not to be have a higher chance of breeding. There's a lot of variation, anywhere between 800 and 80,000 generations, but it is way faster than pure random chance.
But for them, anything is possible. And the whole issue of the Big Bang, this is what they're talking about, isn't it? A massive explosion of matter producing this world with all the complex organisms and everything in it from a massive explosion. We say to them, listen, common sense tells us that explosions produce chaos. They don't produce order.
Yeah, we know. The Big Bang was not an explosion. The Big Bang was a rapid expansion of space-time.
You take atomic bombs, you drop them in a junkyard. Right? You have a junkyard where they have bits and pieces of cars. You drop atomic bombs in that junkyard. Do you think there's a chance of one time that atomic bomb exploding in the junkyard and a Rolls Royce pops out? Door open, keys in the ignition, engine purring, you just need to just get in and drive away? Do you think there's a chance of that happening? No.
Yeah, that would be quite interesting, to say the least.
But that's what they're saying. Human beings who are 1 billion times more complex than a Rolls Royce being produced by the Big Bang. That is totally illogical. Totally unreasonable. That's why we say for them, they try to bring their thing as a logical thing. Is no, it goes against all logic and reason. When we see design, we assume that it was created by a designer. Somebody did it. You're walking on the beach, you see footprints in the sand, you don't stop to think, how amazing. The tide came in, sunk into the sand, and made a footprint. Look at that. No, you automatically assume somebody walked there ahead of you. That's your common sense.
Be careful using common sense to decide absolute truth. Science exists because humans are really bad at that.
And for the Arabs, the ancient Arabs, they put it, in a way, this is before even the Quran was revealed. They said, Al-Ba'ra yadullu ala al-ba'ir. That camel dung indicates the camel. Meaning you're riding out on the desert, you come across a clump of camel dung, you don't stop and think, how amazing! The sand, rolled itself into a little ball and, some things fell on it or whatever, and here you got thing looking like a camel dung. No, you assume a camel went by and did his droppings, right? That is common sense. But they want to say, no, maybe the sand did blow it, did roll together, something did fall on it, and that's how it happened, No. We say this is illogical and unreasonable. So the argument from design indicates really there had to be a designer. And that is, as I said, the most common argument. And you find big scholars, even amongst the Christian background scholars, Isaac Newton and others, made these kind of examples to people.
Awesome. So we're basically God's droppings. That explains a lot. Follow me on Minds and Twitter. I haven't done anything with the DeviantArt recently, but the link is still there, along with the link to the original video, my intro and outro music, and the backgrounds I use. I hope you enjoyed.